Okay, hello and welcome to Teach Online TV. My name is Tyler Basu. Thank you so much for joining us. Today I have a special guest who's an educator, an entrepreneur, an internet marketing influencer, a professional speaker. She was named one of the top 50 must-follow women in 2017 by the Huffington Post. And she's also a course creator and specifically really good at helping other course creators ensure that their students are successful. So we're going to be talking about things like completion rates, student engaging with your students, how to create content and training that they're going to enjoy going through and actually finish, and all kinds of good stuff. So Dr. Carrie Rose, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's great to share.
So could you just take a moment to tell us how you got into this space? How did you get all those credentials I listed off, and I left out several others as well, but how did you become the expert that you are today on this topic?
Oh, it really does stem way back into my childhood, actually. The whole thing, I feel like I was meant to be doing this or on this path, really. I had a fairly traumatic experience when I was younger. And ended up being what I self-diagnosed many moons later as selectively mute, and also dyslexic. And I didn't learn to read until I was 10 years old. So I entered fifth grade without really understanding the basics of reading, and then left that year with the highest standardized test scores that school has seen. So when I entered the field of education years later, my obsession became what did that one person, that one teacher do for me that everyone else had clearly missed, you know what I mean? Like they had gone through what are the basics and what do we do, but hadn't been able to reach me. So I went into the field of public ed and spent 10 years in there, primarily working with students in low socioeconomic backgrounds. I became like the Ellis Island of the classroom. Give me whatever child has the greatest struggle, greatest need in that area. And it began this fascination with learning strategies. And what we think makes an impact isn't usually what's proven to make an impact, which is really interesting. We tend to perpetuate what's being done and do what's being done without really looking at data and evidence, which usually is to the contrary. In that time, I got my doctorate in educational leadership, wrote my dissertation on professional development, which is what many courses are. They're either personal or professional development of some sort. And then I met three guys in a world of beer. As I said, luck would have it. And the trajectory was changed. They introduced me to words like affiliate marketing and SEO, and all of a sudden I was down the online marketing rabbit hole, taking course after course. And what I discovered is in this world of online courses, there's a whole lot missing when it comes to actual learning strategies and actually making a difference in a transformational course. So that began the journey. And like you said, my current research area of study has been into the online course completion rates. Furthering that conversation. So really your experience stems from, real world classrooms, like having teachers that impacted you and figured out how to work with you and help you learn how to learn. And at the same time, you then going and doing that when you were working in the educational field, and then bringing all of that knowledge and experience and wisdom online and trying to incorporate that into online training, where we often, may not ever meet our student in person or may not ever be in the same room as them. But how can we bring some of those lessons into the online setting? Now, on the topic of completion rates, what have you noticed, as the trend with online training? Like our completion rate, is it something that most people who create an online course struggle with? Are completion rates low? Are they getting better? Like, what is your high level view of this topic? Sure. There's a lot to that. So online course completion rates on average are about 3 to 5%. I know Thinkific has much higher because you guys do so much with your platform to make sure that there are processes in place to ensure learning. So that's one of the reasons why Thinkific has become my go-to platform when people have, a need for a recommendation. So if a 97% attrition rate in a $107 billion industry, to me, is a big energy gap, right? There's a big discrepancy between what people are asking from us and what they're actually getting from us. And so I've done a coursework, a study in this area as far as, qualitative research, interviewing top leading marketers and thoughtpreneurs in the industry. And I'm currently compiling that into my book on the topic. And, you know, I think that the most validation I got from this was my last interview with Pat Flynn, of course, you know, the Smart Passive Income. And he is just such a brilliant mind and such a genuine soul. And one of the things he said to me is like, Carrie, I'm so glad you're looking into this because it's much needed. You know, it's so much needed in the industry. And he could even see how, of course he could, but he could see how, you know, if people aren't completing their course, how are they going to purchase your next course or next offering or continue on the journey with you? And of course, there's things that we can do as far as when we offer that next sale that can lead to whether or not we're influencing their next purchase, but are they really getting from us what they're asking for on that journey? And there's a lot of different components that go into this. I'd love to say it's like, it's this one thing. It seems like each interview that I have, there's one idea presented in a silo. It's just this thing. It's just that thing. And I think it's more like a combination of all of these variables that leads to this. So at the moment, like what I'm really encouraging people to do is to look at their content, not just their course content, but everything as as a content continuum. So as like one piece of content to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, where do they go from the start of their journey with you to the end of the journey with you? Where's the furthest place you can take them? Where's the most beginning place that you're going to start? And looking at each of those pieces along that journey as, you know, what is the high level conceptual information that they need to understand? And what's the practical component of that section of the continuum as you go on? And so when you look at your whole business that way, if you're a thought leader, if you're an entrepreneur and you're putting out content like that, if you're looking at your whole business that way, what you can do is a lot of different things with it. So one of the guys that I'm really fond of, Greg Hickman, he's from system.ly. He has a brilliant mind when it comes to marketing funnels. And when I was interviewing him for this book, one of the things that he introduced me to is really that sometimes people are prepared with content to enter a course, and sometimes they feel like they're at the stage where they understand, and then they get inside the course, but really they've only gotten bits and pieces of it according to the content, but they're not really ready for the course yet as it's presented. And so he said that leads to increased dropout rates that he's found. And as I see it, I'm trying to encourage people more towards a choose your own adventure model, as opposed to they have to have the feeling of completion to achieve satisfaction or to achieve perceived value. Because really that's what you want, is you want perceived value. You want them to get what they think they're going to get out of it. And if you ask them where they're at, back up, adults are self-selected learners. So most of the time, if you're engaging a child in the classroom, you're teaching, this is what you need to know. This is where you do. This is, you sit down, you follow these directions, and then you're done. And the thing is, we perpetuate this model as course creators for adult communities, but adults don't learn like that. We pick and choose. We often pick like 3-minute videos on YouTube. We find the smallest dose of what we need now, and then we're done. And the best thing that you can do as a course creator is, if you've got your content chucked up into where these bite-sized pieces fit on this continuum, you can ask specific questions from your audience to determine inside of your course what lessons they even need to take, and really encourage that model, because I feel that over time, what you're going to find is a more satisfied customer base, and you're really trying to nurture that relationship for the long game, as opposed to, just finish this one course now.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that comes up a lot among our customers is, once they've marketed their course and once they've got a student, what can they do after that? Like, what happens afterwards? How should they have structured their course? How should they have created their content? How can they interact with their student, or let their students interact with each other? What can they do to ensure that their student, completes their course, first of all, but more importantly, does something with that information and actually gets the result that they were taught to get with the information. So there's two parts of it. There's like, what can we do to make them actually consume the information? But then how can we help them implement and have the support or have the accountability? But I'm glad that I'm not surprised that the completion rates are so low. in the industry overall. And, we're doing our best to ensure that our platform makes it easier for people from a technological standpoint to put in the tools and the features that help move somebody through the course. But there's still, that element of the personal touch, from the instructor that's required, a bit of finesse and, a bit of learning about this topic, which is why we've brought you on.
Thanks.
I know I've been looking forward to this because this is, something a lot of people have been asking for. And, now that we get to learn from you. So this is fantastic. Now, one thing I want to bring up was that there's different types of learning styles. Some people are more visual, some people are more auditory. Like there's different ways that people learn. And so, not knowing, what type of learner your student might be, when you create a course, what are some ways that we can ensure that we're touching on each of the different learning styles, or we're creating training that, is not going to be valuable for just one type of learner, but is going to be valuable for the different types of learners that we could have going through our content? Do you have any tips or any thoughts on how we could do that?
Sure. Actually, you've got an excellent point there. You don't know who's taking your course, so you have to hit all of them, right? And that goes for multiple intelligences as well, although that's something is another different topic that we can get into further, and I'll have that as a part B caveat here. So when you're looking at reaching different learning modalities, as you're suggesting, some of the suggestions that I would have for you is not just to create a video, but once you have that video content, it is really easy to go strip that video and make an audio file from it. And from that point, it is really easy to go strip that or take that audio content and have it transcribed for you. Right. So then you've got your auditory learners, you've got your visual learners, and, you've got your kinesthetic learners doing some reading. We'll add to that later because kinesthetic, it's not just reading and writing. Right. So they need the application component as well. But once you start doing it that way, you've got people that right now they like to, throw their earbuds on and walk around and go ahead and listen to their courses or get in their car and listen to the content. They don't necessarily want to sit there and watch the videos. So it's really smart to have, both methods available there. And some people do better with highlighting and writing down information and circling that as well. When you get into kinesthetic learners, they're a little bit different. They're about 15% of the population, and they're often the most ignored or most looked over. Your kinesthetic learners are often left-handers, sometimes have more difficulty learning in school, may have felt bad about learning as a process in general. And these people really need to apply. And a lot of people are saying apply, but it's hard sometimes when you're writing a course to look for application components where there don't seem to be any obvious application components. What I mean by this is, like, if you're creating a course for social media managers on how to be a social media manager, right? You're going to have them set up their Facebook page, right? And so inside of that, your application components are like, okay, set up your Facebook page, add your profile now, add your banner now, it should be this dimensions, right? You're going to be adding those components in, and those are what we call those more actionable items. But when you're looking for application components for things that are more constructs or conceptual level, those tend to be a little harder to find for course creators. And I think that we end up missing that 15% often because of it. And so for those people, I would really suggest, if you're looking at like a personal development transformational course or something of that nature where you have more of a conceptual base, you're looking for things like habits. You're looking for, over a period of a week's time, notice how many times you do X, or what did you notice in the last hour that you found, interesting or related to that topic, right? And so you're having them notice the amount of times that they do something or how they feel about when they do something. Feelings are attached to kinesthetic learners. They really relate to that kind of content. And also putting deadlines and calendars and that sort of thing of when you're going to achieve a goal or create a plan, those are really good actionable items as well. Part B, So I don't want to miss this part. So I was also saying something about multiple intelligences, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, but Howard Gardner came up with this theory in 1980 of multiple intelligences. And it's really great when you look at it, because basically what it says is that we all have our smarts. We have them in different ways. Right? Like I have a doctorate in education, but if my car broke down on the side of the road, literally I'd be sitting there calling somebody because I'm not sure I know how to open the hood. Like it's not, I mean, I wouldn't know what was going on underneath it for sure. It's not my strength. It's not my suit, right? It's not in my deck. But if you look at somebody that is able to do that, they have a different intelligence, or they're stronger in certain intelligences than I am. And so it's really great. You can look up Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences and take a self-quiz if you want to learn more about the different types of intelligences. But I recommend all course creators to put at least 4 into each lesson of their course, so that they're hitting, because we all have a combination of these 9 intelligences, so that you're hitting one of them for the person that's in your room or in your content.
No, that makes a lot of sense. What are your thoughts on holding your students accountable to some degree? Are there any ways that you've seen this accomplished online, whether the instructor is somehow holding the students accountable, or checking in, or reminding them in some way, or having them do it for each other? Is there any particular way that you've found to be effective? There
are a lot of ways to do this, and everything really needs to be based on the course creator, the content itself, and the audience that they're serving. So just a couple of different examples. One of the things that I do my students that works out amazingly well is I text my students directly to find out where they're at. I text them to find, but it comes with my course comes with a coaching component. So I need to know if they're ready for the next phone call before I get on the next phone call with them. So I'm just like, hey, are you done with this lesson yet? What are your thoughts? How are you feeling? This is not a scalable plan. Okay. So if you're looking at how to make this as, much of passive revenue as possible, that's not really highly scalable. Something that is highly scalable is a suggestion that I got from Jason Swank, is to, and this is somewhat to your question, a little variety of it. He has his people choose how long it's going to take them to complete their course. So his course could probably be finished in about 4 hours. He has them decide if they're going to finish it in 8 days, 8 hours, 8 days, or 16 days. It's something like that, where it's like you can choose one of these 3 paths to completion. And from that, autoresponders are set up to remind them where they should be at that time.
Oh, okay.
So super scalable, right?
Yeah.
In that method. Other methods that I've seen that I really like is if you're going to have like a Facebook group or discussion that goes with it, right? Having them post videos inside of the group when they've hit different levels, like answering certain questions at the level that they're at. That's another trick that you can use for accountability, because then everybody's seeing you and they're cheering you on. So there's that component, that kind of peer pressure a little bit, to stay on your game, but in a positive way. And another thing that I've seen that's worked really well is adding that gamification component to it. And I don't mean gamification as I've seen on some other platforms. I've seen different LMS systems where they do like drag and drop word searches for gamification for adult learners. And no, not that. But really looking at when you hit a certain level, then, if you're the first person to hit this level in the game, then you can have, one of my favorite books, or then, you can earn an additional 20 minutes of coaching with me if you're the first person to do this, or maybe it's the top 5, or, however you want to do it, so that they feel that they're moving forward with you. There's something to earn from the completion of this task, whatever that is.
Right. So you're building in like a reward system based on certain progress then?
Definitely. I mean, you can look at it as time progress, and you can also look at it as quality as well, right? So if you were to give inside of your course, if you were to give a PDF document of like a rubric, so like hitting, like these are the different, this is a task you're to do, right? These are the different qualities that I'm looking for in the side of the task. And here are the different levels or scores that you can get of these qualities based on like what I'm looking for, right? So you could do it on like the highest score, for the rubric. Like this person did honestly the best job, period, based on this format that I've set up, so that you can actually quantify the qualitative in that.
Do you ever involve your students in the creation of the course itself, or like are there situations where you've created the entire course and then gone and presented it to other people, or had some students come through it, or in what circumstances might you create it as you go and get some feedback along the way, and have students participate or make suggestions along the way, and you kind of, based on what they're telling you, you tweak your content a little bit. Have you done, both scenarios, or either or? What are your thoughts on doing that?
Yeah, no, I haven't for my course, because I knew what my method was. My course is all based on 500 research studies about how we learn content. So it was kind of like a set and forget at this moment in time. But I think that course creation is an ongoing thing. So even with that being said, if somebody said to me something that, they gave me a feedback and like, hey, you know what, I want this changed, or I would love to have seen this, or can you add a video on that? Whatever it is, I would do it, because I just think that that's the way to go. But as far as like a funded proposal or seed launch method, definitely, a lot of course creators struggle with imposter syndrome, right? Or, it seems like even though what I solve for is completion rates and learning strategies, right? What I end up working with people on most of the time is mindset and the just getting it out there and getting it done. And when you put yourself into that pressure of, launching and creating as you go, you end up fulfilling, because you can never let your people down, right? Like if you're of integrity, you're going to keep doing it. So I think that's a great method, especially if this is your first time building a course, you're trying to get it out there. It does a couple of things. You are getting feedback as you go. You know what they're asking for. So you have your audience right there, and you can build the course around the people that are in the room. That's a great method of teaching, especially for that group. They're going to get so much value out of it. I would say caveat to that, that's that group. So next time, you might have to continue to make adjustments for the next group. But no, that can be an absolute beautiful thing. And adding in that accountability piece as you're going, to make sure that they get the most out of it as well.
Right. No, that's great advice. What would you say are some of the best ways to facilitate your students interacting with each other? This is part of the reason why a lot of people go to school, in a classroom, is they just don't want to get the information. They want to meet other people who are learning the same thing. They want to build their network and build those connections as they go through the content. So how can we mimic that online? What are some of the ways that we can mimic that, bring that classroom environment into the online world when other people who are taking the course, they might be from another city or another country, but is there a way that we can, build that sense of community and connection among the students themselves?
Sure, 100%. Facebook groups are amazing for that. Honestly, like having the groups, but then encouraging discussion, right? Depending on the types of questions that you're asking inside of the coursework itself, you can encourage that to be the place where they post the discussion and going through it. I think a lot of it has to do with the mannerisms of the instructor and the positivity of the instructor. There is a book called What Great Teachers Do Differently, which I think really lends to that building of community. Now, not necessarily with adults or online world, but all of these things kind of transfer over. They're people, right? And you want to make sure that people are interacting positively and you want them to have a positive experience. Part of that is to always plus people, right? This and that, not this or that, to make sure that they feel that you're adding to them, that you're listening to them and encouraging that behavior in others. I think the other thing is to not point out when somebody's doing something wrong. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but so often online we see posts in general, and this transfers over, but I don't like it when people do X. Well, now you've just told the entire room that you don't like it when people do X. So maybe it was one person that was having a problem. You can take those conversations offline. That doesn't need to be in the room. A vibe is everything, and people catch that in your group. So you really want to keep it to be a positive learning experience and point out, I don't know if you've seen, Arnold Schwarzenegger's most recent example online, how he handled somebody's comment about the Special Olympics.
I did see that. Yeah.
That is a great example. yeah, I mean, he's like, this is a teachable moment. I was like,
Yep.
yes, Arnie, like, go for it. That is exactly what this is,
Yeah.
and you can do it in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great example.
So just a side note also, like if you're pairing people up to work together, make sure that their businesses or their goals, if it's a professional development, make sure their businesses are in alignment. If it's a personal development, make sure their personal goals are in alignment. And then also trying to coordinate their time zones before you just randomly pair people up. That's a
right. Yeah.
side note.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we've alluded to to several mistakes that a course creator can make, things that are going to really hurt their completion rates and their engagement rates. But are there any major ones, any big ones that you really want to drive home, things that we as the course creators can avoid doing, or just to give our students the best chance of actually going through our content and getting the most value from our training?
Sure. I think the biggest thing has to do with congruency, right? Like when people buy a course, they expect to have, and this is where it gets really tricky, they expect to have the feeling that you promised them inside the copy when they're done. And so, because we sell based on feelings, we don't sell based on like what you'll know. We sell on how you'll feel. And so that's really hard for course creators to serve on sometimes, and so I think that's one of the main ways where we end up losing people is a lack of congruence. What I'm encouraging everybody to do is to start after they've done their, identify their target market and they've done their market research to make sure they have a viable product, right? At that point, write the copy for your sales page. And I know that's going to sound really strange. And let me say this is called like a sloppy copy. This isn't what you put out to the world. You have a copywriter do that or finish it up later. But what you really need to focus on is what you're promising them. So in that copy is where you make your promise to your audience that this is how they're going to feel and what you're going to deliver. And so that you have it, and then you take it as your promise to yourself when you're creating this content. So keeping in mind your learning continuum of your information and what that looks like, how does that fit into your content, and how does that fit into the course, and how does that match with what their needs are and what their objectives are? It is really an art and a science at the same time. But if you have that, you're building it out and you're keeping that congruency. And then at the end, taking that sales copy and giving it to a copywriter to finesse, but make sure that it still matches your intent of it. Copywriters are great at selling things. That's awesome. We want them to, but a good copywriter is going to ask you, is this what you mean? And they're not necessarily going to go through your course.
No, that's great advice. So we need to be really conscious of, the end result that we're promising somebody, but not just what they get but how they're going to feel when they make that happen, and speak to those feelings. Now, in terms of the structure of an actual lesson, and I'm thinking of Netflix when I ask you this, because you've probably, like myself and maybe you, have you ever been just completely sucked into a show on Netflix because when you finish one episode, they're teasing the next one, and then next thing you know, you've killed quite a few hours watching multiple episodes because they hook you.
Right.
Can that be done with courses? Is there a way to structure a lesson so that like they really want the next lesson, and then they get there and then they really want the next one, and the next thing they know, they've gone through most of your content and it wasn't there wasn't resistance, like they just zoned out and went through it? How can we make that happen in a course?
To your point, I am binge watching Iron Fist at the moment.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a beautiful point that you've made. Like we are competing with the Game of Thrones Walking Dead world. Like we are competing with that level of intensity and drama and interaction, and the comedy is intense and everything is way over the top. And most of us aren't entertainers, right? If some of us may be, I have 2 degrees in theater, but that doesn't mean I consider myself an entertainer, and so we're trying to compete with that. And how do you? And then there's a couple of things to look at. I actually had a conversation with Michael Savage, who works with Tony Robbins Research International. And one of the things that he and I were talking about was really looking at it like, you know what, if you aren't that interesting, it is okay if it's not a personal brand to have somebody else record your content for you. I have a friend right now that I used to go to grad school with in Alabama, and all she does is create audiobooks. Like she is, recording audiobooks nonstop. We have talent that does that, and that is an okay thing to do, right? So that's just one suggestion if it's like a way off thing, right? But the other part is we have to understand that a lot of it has to do with attention span, right? And so if you're telling me that I am going to sit through a 25-hour course as opposed to a 2-hour course, which one am I going to choose? Right? I'm going to go through the 2-hour course that gets me the objective. If I need to take multiple 2-hour courses to get me to that objective, I'll do that. But I want to feel some sense of accomplishment, and I don't want to sit that long. This isn't children learning. This isn't an ADHD thing. This is adult learners. We don't want it either. If you think about things like in a YouTube world, right? Instead of trying to compare yourself to Netflix, try to compare yourself to YouTube. Most of the videos are much shorter, right? So how do we get that? How do we deliver on a lesson inside of the length of a commercial? That's really what you really want to be thinking about, because you will give them the sense of momentum in that, even if you have many lessons to cover the one topic, right? Here's a chunk, here's a chunk, here's a chunk, right? To get them there, you do that. You break it up. Hootsuite's got a great example of this. If you looked at their training, I mean, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but it was like 1.5 to 3 minute videos. I suggest 3 to 5 minutes on average, honestly, just to keep it super, super short. But at that point, yeah, I mean, people are willing to sit through and check it off. And then it's like, oh, well, I can handle the next one. Done.
It's bite-sized content, I guess, right? They don't have to go
definitely
digging into a 20-minute video to get one tidbit of information.
No.
In fact, I recently finished a book by Stephen Pressfield.
Ah, yeah.
I don't know if you've read any of his books, but his chapters are like 1 page, 2 page, half a page, like 2 lines even.
Yeah.
And I ripped through the whole book. Like I read the whole book faster than I'd read any other book previously, because it was just bite-sized. Every time I finish a chapter, I'm like, oh, well, the next chapter is only going to take me a few seconds. And then I read that one, and then that, and on and on and on it went. And I think the same thing can happen with courses. If you break up your training into those bite-sized lessons, then the next thing you know, you make it easier to consume.
Definitely. The War of Art, is that the book you were reading?
I ended up buying all of his after that. So yeah, the War of Art,
it's one of my favorites.
Turning Pro, and Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit, that one too.
Probably all great. I definitely recommend the War of Art for anybody that's creating a course, because it is that he's got a great message about just sit down and do the work.
Yeah.
It's not complicated. Sit down and do the work. And we tend to, there's a thing called Parkinson's law. It will take us as long as we tell us it will take us to do whatever the task is. Yourself at, it'll take me these 7 days. It's done. It's already, the train's left the station. And he's got a great method of just sit down and do it, Well,
Carrie, this has been great. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and sharing your insights. I've just got one last question for you, and then we'll wrap up. For somebody who's watching this and, they have an area of expertise, they're starting to create courses, they want to share their knowledge, but they could use just a little bit of encouragement or inspiration to ensure that they get this done, that they create their course, they get it out there, they share it with the world, they get some students. I'm just curious, what kind of an impact has it had on your life to share your knowledge with others? I mean, you've created courses, you've helped other people. What has that done for your career and your life to be sharing what you know with other people?
It's just, it feels like a dream sometimes. Like I seriously, when I first saw that this world existed, I told you I met 3 guys in a world of beer. I started following these people on Facebook and seeing the kind of things that they were doing, the travel experiences that we're having, the parties that they were going to, the life that they were providing for their children. And at that point in time, I looked at it and went, I want to do that. That looks a lot more interesting to me than what I was doing currently. And it's, I now I can look at it and I can say, honestly, this is what I do. Like I travel all the time. I enjoy myself. I work wherever I want to. My flight got delayed the other day in San Diego. And we couldn't get another flight back on that airlines for like another couple of days. And there was an option to change airlines, but I was like, oh, wow, wait, I'm stranded in San Diego. Worst things could happen, but I could literally get myself stranded in San Diego, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. And before, like, if you would have said that to me, I was like, oh no, how can we fix this problem? And now it's like, great, thank you for the gift. I just think in the day and age that we live in, so many opportunities are available. If you can figure out how do you monetize your gifts and information and reduce the amount of time that you spend trading for dollars. And that's what online courses do. So it's just been, I've loved it. It's been fabulous for me. So I encourage others to do it.
That's great. Well, that's a great place to wrap up. Thank you for those words of encouragement.
Yeah.
So Carrie, if our audience wants to get in touch with you, learn more about what you're doing, drcarrierose.com. Is that the best place we can send them? Or
that is my personal website.
Okay.
My business one also is brandlegend.us. And they are also more than welcome to join us. We have a Facebook community called Of Course. Of course, one word, not two, just as put it in the search bar, a request. If you need to send me a personal message to make sure that you're approved, and I will make sure that you're in there. We have a lot of really awesome thoughtpreneurs and high-level marketers in there answering questions all the time. So I love it. It's a really warm place. Like I said, you gotta lead with that, lead with the heart, and really create good communities of people. And I think we've done that in there. So I'm proud of them.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. We will link to those below the video. And thanks again. I wish you all the best.
Thanks. It's been great chatting with you.